Hey everybody, this is Perch. Let's get into this. This is talking about comic genres. Something that comics continue to struggle with, by the way. It's weird in the year 2024, and that you have plenty of examples from all different types of media, whether it's movies or manga or books or YA or whatever, where they're able to do different genres very distinctly, very easily. And comics seems to still struggle like crazy with it. At this point, I have to believe it's an editorial problem because you see, it's not all of comics. You definitely see some publishers doing this better than others. But it's weird to me that the big two can't seem to figure this out. And whenever they try and tap into another genre, it's just odd. It's and also, can I just state this, because this is one of the things that truly baffles me, is there's this, I don't know, this narrative that goes on with Marvel in particular, a little bit with DC, but definitely Marvel, where, if they have a writer and the writer writes a comic that has, teens in it, early 20s or, just younger heroes, younger characters in it, like the writer, if the writer writes one or two issues, um, and the the I guess the characters exist, then suddenly the company's like, this character knows how to write kids. This character is in touch with Generation Y, and then they start giving them other books. They like immediately bless the writer with this reputation of being amazing at writing for a younger audience, and it's bizarre. We saw this with Vita Ayala. It's like, Vita knows how to write kids. And then again with Danny Lore. And it's a reason why you got that, Daughter and Blade series. Like, well, Danny clearly knows how to write children. And it's like, what, but from what? Like, from what evidence? and, and right now they're doing it again with Kelly and Lansing. They're like, and it's over this NYX comic, which is terrible. I'm sorry, that's a terrible comic. The dialogue is the most cringy, taken off of Netflix dialogue. This isn't how people talk or want to hear people talk. My younger daughter, who's way more wants to be in touch with pop culture and stuff, and by and large, I mean, she comes in unironically and talks about Riz, and I'm like, gee, what the fuck am I doing as a parent? Anyway, I had my I have my tablet open, and I was reading NYX, and she picks it up, and she makes these attempts to try and connect with dad, and she's reading this and like, this is terrible. This is a boring comic. It's like, yes, and this is a kid reading about kids, and it's awful. Anyway, I don't get that. I truly don't understand why companies do this. Anyway, let's get this bell. It says, hello, Professor Perchington. I'm coming up in the world. So I want to dissect the human mind of the culture war between manga and comics. Good luck with that one. So the manga lovers say mangas are better than comics because they do other genres aside. That is, that seems to be incorrect. But there have been comics that have done other genres than superheroes. That's true. Mostly indie comics have done different and explored different genres. Yes, that stuff. The indie comics. Well, what happens is, you don't have any pre-existing spine of business to deal with. I mean, the problem with Marvel and DC is always going to be, there's people that are like, we really should do slice of life or romance or horror or all the rest, but our money, reputation, background, characters, everybody recognize are superheroes. So if only we could get rid of those pesky superheroes and do the comics we want. Well, that doesn't work. So it says, but since you talk about DC and Marvel only matters, not indie comic, that's not true at all, since only DC and Marvel head of the direct market. All right. This feels, again, I'm, I appreciate you writing in. Thank you, always do, but I am struggling a little bit with the grammar here a bit. Let use examples not only from Big Two that done other genres that are not superheroes. No indies, okay? Because indies and create your own comic that has the same quality as manga doesn't matter. Only Big Two corporation comics that matters. No, but it's okay. If I can kind of dissect a little bit what's being said here, it's indie comics do other genres relatively well. And I think indie comics and manga are, reasonably analogous in terms of telling stories beyond just the classic comic superhero story, because they're largely free to do so. Manga, has a creator who's very much in charge of steering the story, and then the creator goes away or ends the series, and the series isn't expected to continue under the corporation that was publishing it, and so it kind of forces a beginning and end to series, and so it's really going to be based more on the popularity of what people are waiting to read. My Hero Academia was popular, and so you saw more, other creators come in and do superhero books, in manga. Same thing with horror, and so it's really the popularity of the, whatever the title is that's selling really well, that starts to steer what other creators do, because they also want to be popular, but it's not a corporate mandate. DC and Marvel, like mentioned before, are trapped there, but DC and Marvel also have a pretty aggressive stranglehold on the industry. The indies sell, but by and large, Marvel and DC control the roost, as they say. So, let's finish up this mail real quick. You could do Professor Perchington. You made a video about Western comics and fantasy genre. Funny enough, both DC and Marvel have done fantasy without superheroes before, but since those comics are not popular like Batman and Spider-Man, no one knows those comics exist. Is there a slice of life and romance Western comic from DC and Marvel that everyone enjoys? The answer is yes. But what is it? The answer is yes. Currently, that the two publishers are putting out, Western, no. Horror, you could say the Nice House by the Lake or the Nice House by the Sea exists there, but I don't know. That's more sci-fi. Is that horror or sci-fi? I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily call those horror. If you talk about like DC versus vampires, I have a hard time calling that horror. It's superheroes with vampire powers. That's a superhero book. Um, Over in Marvel, I think you've got a lot of examples of where they attempt to do slice of life, but there it's a superhero book where they're trying to cram in, slice of life type elements. You could look at the Guardians of the Galaxy, the Kelly and Lansing book, and Marvel was saying, well, that's a Western. It's like a sci-fi Western. It's the tone. And here's where I think we need to separate between, the tone of a book and the genre of a book. So you could say that a lot of things have the tone of a book. I could argue that, NYX has the tone of slice of life, but it's clearly superhero. It features superheroes in it. Superheroes using their powers. The crux of the story, the conflict, the protagonist, everything is based on powers and superhero elements. And so, having the characters talk about going to get a latte while they're discussing what they're going to do about Hellion, fucking things up in New York, that doesn't make it a slice of life book. It makes it have the tone of slice of life, but it's still very firmly in the superhero genre. And I think you're seeing a lot of that with Marvel. I think Marvel, partly because of a lot of the writers they went after and the creators who were doing stuff in YA, you're getting that, slice of life type feel ingested into a lot of those books. In many ways, I think Marvel has it's the devil's agreement of a slice of life tone with MCU movie humor and with the backdrop of a superhero book. And to me, that's nightmare town of three things coming together. That's just a bad combo in my mind. But otherwise, I think DC plays a little bit more with that. That's kind of what, Vertigo was meant to be, is kind of meant to play that kind of other element. But at the end of the day, I don't know. I mean, I'm racking my brain here. If you're talking all time, then yeah, I mean, Marvel had romance books, and they had Western books, and DC had war books, combat books, and they had Jonah Hex, and they had, there have been different attempts. But if you're gonna say, Marvel plays in the Western genre because they have Two Gun Kid, um, no, I mean, not this century. So I think, and we've talked about this a lot on the show. I don't think it's impossible for the big two to do these other genres. I just think they need to have a hard separation. and and also maybe a recognition and mission to their audience. Look, our money, our reputation, the characters everybody knows, everything that we do, the popularity of our company exists with superheroes. And that's why people come to the table. Superheroes. Marvel without Spider-Man is it's just synonymous with Spider-Man. So in many ways the company has to admit a couple things. They have to admit that, hey, we are um we're doing something that is unique, to our business. We're a superhero company, but we're going to try something with horror. So therefore, we're almost starting over. We're going to leverage some of the publishing power that we have, but in terms of gaining an audience, we have to go there and we're at the same starting place as an indie company making a horror book. And I just think they need to. It's not cop to that, but they just need to admit that's where they're beginning. And then they have to also say, if this thing doesn't work or it takes a long time to build an audience, because you don't just build an audience overnight, then, we, uh, we we're gonna we're willing to have it be a low seller. We can't like get into it and then, after 4 months go, well, it's not selling enough. So let's like have a guest appearance by Wolverine. You gotta just let it be. But I think the biggest problem with the big two when it comes to their genres is, they want the popularity and sales of a Spider-Man and a Wolverine, um, but they also, they want to write and be free to kind of do whatever story type, they want, and it's like, look, Star Wars got popular because it's a space sci-fi epic. It didn't get popular because it was a slapstick comedy slice of life. That's it's not a rom-com. So you could turn it into that, but you will give up your audience. You're going to give up the built-in group that you made with Star Wars. And so are you willing to do that? You can't completely change everything and then say, well, nobody showed up to buy it. And bad there's bad toxic males out there who wouldn't accept that we radically changed the tone of the genre of everything of this thing that existed for decades now. So Marvel and DC are superhero companies. If they want to explore the genres, they can do that. They need to distance themselves from it. They need to not tinker and monkey with it by throwing Spider-Man and Wolverine and Captain America and Batman and Superman into it, um, and call it a day. So I don't know if I answered your question. Again, it was a little odd, but I did my best. Hopefully, if I didn't do it, right back in and say, "Hey, dumbass." You should lead off that. Say, "Hello, dumbass Perchington." Anyway, thanks for listening.